Howdy, gang. Here's a little tale that you might be interested in. I'll try to keep it short so it doesn't have to be a two-parter. This is a tale about how artists can be their own worst enemies. So like about 15 years ago, maybe a little more, when Amy Winehouse was big, of course, all the major labels were looking for female soul singers because that's what they do. And we had a female soul singer that we were working with. She wasn't like Amy Winehouse, but she was female and she was a soul singer. And we were cutting tracks with her on our own, out of my own pocket, just because we thought she had a ton of potential and we liked her and it was fun. And we were cutting with some of the best musicians in the world that Bob Olson had helped me assemble, some of the Motown Funk Brothers, some of the Memphis Boys, some of the Muscle Shoals people, and some really hot players from here in Nashville. We called them the Great American Rhythm Section. So we were cutting tracks for about a year and a half. And back in those days, you could walk into major labels in Europe. They're not like here at that time where you needed to you had to get a lawyer and the lawyer made appointments because he knew somebody and whatever. No, I could walk into any major label in Europe, and I did very often, and I would just sit down and chat with them, and I wasn't really pitching them anything most of the time. But at this time, they were looking for the next Amy Winehouse. So I walked into a major label one day in Norway, and I said to the guy, I said, "Hey, we have this girl. She's really great. We think she has a ton of potential." He's like, "Great, let me hear some stuff." So we played him some stuff, and he was really excited. He was like, "Oh, wow, I can see why you like this person." And we were like, "Yes." And he's like, "But there's too many mid-tempo to slower songs. If you could come up with 3 more up-tempo songs and potentially a single or 2, that would be really great." And you know what? He was 1,000% right. So we went back, we talked to this artist, we said, "Hey, look, we've got something going here. What do you think?" She's like, "Yes, let's pursue it." All right, a few things happened. She got a new boyfriend who wasn't such a great musician, not by Nashville standards. He was an okay guy, not that great a musician. He started wanting to impose his will upon things. Okay, I could deal with that. I just needed to get 3 up-tempo songs. So we tried to do that. He wanted to play on the sessions. It didn't work out so well, but we got the songs, and then we did some overdubs, and we brought them back to the label, and the label's like, "Great, we love these. Fantastic. Let's go forward with this." You know, they did want us to cut a few more tracks, just, why not? And we were like, "Great, no problem." And so the deal I had with this artist was, once I recouped my money, which was in the 5 figures, it was substantial at the time, but not unreasonable to recoup if you have a major label deal and they push it out there. Even if you don't sell big numbers, wouldn't it be no problem to make that back in the first year or 2? And so after I recouped my money, she and I would split everything 50-50, which is a ridiculous contract for most artists. Like, I would have been thrilled with that when I was starting out. When you really look at the numbers, it was good. Anyway, so we move forward, we're dealing with the label, and then all of a sudden one day I get a phone call, and it's from a lawyer I've never heard of before. And he's like, "Oh, listen, so-and-so wants to get out of her contract with you." And I'm like, "Really? We're already negotiating with a major label." And he's like, "Yeah, And I was like, I couldn't understand what happened. Well, I found out much later that, she was great. So some other guy heard her, some other producer here in Nashville heard her and made her a ton of promises that never came to fruition, by the way. And she said, "Great, I'm going to go with you because you've had one hit record." And he co-wrote one hit record, but he hadn't produced one, whatever. And she got a lawyer involved. We said, fine, she's out of her contract, even though we were already in negotiations with this major label. But here's the big period on the story. That guy who was the head of that major label in Norway at the time, just in Norway, eventually became the head of the whole label. The whole label. And he really liked her. And if he had taken a personal interest in this, as it was apparent at the time, God only knows where we'd be today, because he's the head of the whole shebang. So don't be your worst enemy. Of course, don't get into bad deals. If you feel uncomfortable with somebody, that's why if she was like, "Yeah, I don't want to work with you anymore," cool, no problem, bye. But those type of deals don't come along often. And I know that whatever this other person was pitching her was really wooing her hard. And now, 15 plus years later, nothing has happened. And I feel horrible for her because I really liked her. She was amazing and she was a good person. Just be careful who you listen to. Don't be your own worst enemy.